I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're looking at a terrific book. It is called Jessie and the Climate Monster by Tom Medeiros. This bilingual children's book addresses the urgent topic of climate change through the adventures of Jesse and his classmates, transforming fear into empowerment. It's a story that not only educates, but also inspires action and hope among young readers and their families as well. We're delighted to have this talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his delightful book. The links are below this interview. Tom, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
Love the story. I think it's such an approachable way for children to get acquainted with the concept of climate change. Tell me a little bit about your inspiration.
I was a teacher for 38 years, basically. And so I interacted with kids from anywhere from kindergarten through graduate school. And that the whole process of looking at something new, if you can explain it, if you can get them to buy into it, if you can get them to feel like they own part of it, is so much easier than them eavesdropping in on somebody else discussing something that may be terrifying. And if you think about it that way, if they're listening to something that might be terrifying, they're filled with fear. They have no answers. They have no direction to follow. They're just sitting there going, God, why aren't they telling me what I need to do? And so hopefully Jesse's telling them what they need to do.
Exactly. You don't want them filled with fears about floods and fire and soaking rains and rising sea levels. You want it given to them in the terms they can understand. And I think that's what this book does really, really well. Let's give the folks at home an overview of the story. Tell them a little bit about Jesse and the climate change monster, or the climate monster, rather.
Jesse is a student probably in grades 2, 3, 4, right in there. And Jesse is coming home from school, pops in and is just yelling, Dad, 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 everything's going wrong. I need help. And it's a result of having heard about more and more climate change activity or happenings while in school. Teachers talking about climate change. She has new students that are forced to move because of a hurricane or a fire. So she's getting greeted by people who have been affected by climate change, and she's feeling like she has nowhere to go, or he feels like he has nowhere to go. Jesse then is directed by Jesse's father to go talk to Charlie, their family dog. And so off Jesse slips and relates the whole thing to Charlie. And Charlie says, I've got some things that'll help you. And the story unfolds.
Great, great. It's a great story, and it's a great vehicle, like I said, for children to learn about climate change. It makes it very approachable and friendly. And also you make it approachable because it's in 2 languages, English and Spanish. Tell us about that.
That I was very lucky to have my daughter-in-law's mother and her sister, who are bilingual. They're all bilingual, Spanish, English, but they're also translators. And so they offered to do that for me. Well, let me ask a question of you. When you read the book, was Jesse a boy or a girl in your mind?
You went back and forth with he and she. I kind of had the same question. It was just kind of Jesse. It wasn't either gender, actually.
Exactly. And I purposely did not use any pronouns that would indicate whether Jesse was a boy or a girl. And the drawings are pretty androgynous.
Right.
That's what I wanted. It was, as a child read this, or as someone was reading it to the child, that child could imagine them as Jesse. And they wouldn't be saying, oh, well, that's a little girl or that's a little boy. Right. So the story unfolds with Jesse being, as you imagine, and empowered to take on this climate monster.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's powerful. I think it's inclusive. So it was a great idea. Another way, of course, to get your message across to people is through, visual media. Have you envisioned this as a cartoon or some kind of animated story to tell children about climate change?
I would love to see it unfold in that direction. I mean, I could see it as almost a serial thing where Jesse does some activity, invites other kids to join Jesse in this activity. And how do you do recycling? How do you go out and plant trees? How do you get away from plastics and start using things that are reusable? So
Yeah.
I could see it easily moving in that direction.
Me
But this,
too. And it's been a long time since Captain Planet. Do you remember that
yeah,
cartoon?
yeah,
And it's funny because, I think it's more timely now than ever. I think when Ted Turner produced Captain Planet, 2 decades ago, it wasn't as topical as now, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to find the media that's going to attract the kids
Hmm.
where they don't think they're being lectured to and they don't think they're being instructed that they have to do something, but rather it's something so enticing that they want to be part of this army or part of this brigade that's fighting the climate monster.
Exactly, exactly. Tell the folks at home a little bit about the role of Climate Monster in the story and how it symbolizes environmental challenges.
Well, the climate monster, as Charlie unfolds all of the things Jesse's going to be able to do to fight this climate monster, the climate monster takes on all of the different aspects of climate change. Climate monsters affecting the planet with hurricanes, with forest fires, with high heat, with flooding. So all of those things are being described by Jesse and by Charlie, the dog. And so Jesse's getting a real idea of what this climate monster is capable of doing
Mhm.
and how Jesse and kids like Jesse can fight that climate monster. So it keeps giving the people reading this more and more power to take on a real difficult situation.
Have you had the opportunity to read it to any children or get feedback from parents who have shared it with their children? Tell us a little bit about how kids are receiving the story.
As I was writing it, I was fortunate to have some neighbors who had young kids, and I'd test out sections with them and watch their eyes, and it was like, oh, that's kind of cool, or huh? And then I'd go back and revise. And I've read it to a few kids here and there. I haven't presented in any classrooms yet, although I have some coming up. And I'm going to be doing a couple of events at local libraries coming up, especially during this Earth Day week and Earth Day month. So we're going to be pulling it out that way. But I've gotten lots of feedback from the parents who have bought it for their kids or for their grandkids. And they're pretty excited because it not only gets the kids involved, but as you're reading the book to them, you're thinking about, well, that's an easy thing to do. I can recycle more, or I can do this, or I can do that, or oh, I didn't know climate was changing in this way.
Hmm.
So through this, I'm educating some adults as well.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about some of the activities and resources included in the book that help families further explore and understand climate change.
Well, I was fortunate in that my daughter-in-law um, works for the Climate Science Alliance out of
Mm.
San Diego. And so she was a natural to provide me with lots of links. Um, Several of the people I mentioned in the book got to take a look at the book before I published it and really decided that what was valuable, what I could leave behind. And so that gave me a lot to go on. Um, the activities in there are mainly activities I used to use as a teacher.
Mhm.
Um, Bingo for spelling words. Well, instead of bingo for spelling words, let's do bingo for climate, good climate activities like
Mm.
electric cars, windmills, solar panels. So as you're walking along, you're looking around for this. Um, then I give them a blank sheet and they can create their own bingo cards
Mm.
and go out with their dad and their mom or their cousins or whatever and do bingo and keep their eyes open for changes
Yeah.
and how people are addressing these changes.
I think it's great. I think it makes it interactive and helps bring it to life. Another aspect of the book that brings it to life, of course, are the illustrations. Tell us a little bit about those.
I was very fortunate in that the publishing company, A&M Publishers, who accepted my book. And it was a case of every new author, who's going to take it? Oh, you're going to take it? That's terrific.
Mm.
They took the book and they offered to illustrate it. So these were in-house illustrators, but they read it and they really got the feel for what Jesse and the Climate Monster and Charlie should be like. And they would show me the drafts and I would look at them and I would say, yeah, that's great. Can you make Jesse look a little less either boyish or a little less girlish and more androgynous? And it all came out just wonderfully. And Climate Monster looks menacing, but not overwhelming.
Exactly. Menacing, but not terribly frightening, of course,
Yes.
for kids. Tell us a little bit about your teaching work.
I started off actually running tutorial programs at different colleges and then ended up saying, well, I need to get into the classroom. And I started teaching middle school, which is where I spent most of my time, grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I was a science teacher. And then I tried elementary for a while and did grades 3, 4, and 5. And that was really exciting because they're wide-eyed. They're just ready to, oh, wow, what a great idea. Like, yeah, let's go do this.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. And then I retired and that lasted for about 4 months. And I went to work for UC Santa Cruz as a science teacher, supervisor, and lecturer. And I did that for about 5 years. And so it gave me the opportunity to pass on this kind of enthusiasm onto a whole new group of teachers. And I can proudly say there are some fine teachers out there that I had the pleasure of working with.
Terrific. And now you have a new hat to wear. It says children's author on it. And you've crafted a terrific book that's going to help a lot of kids and hopefully help our civilization and society down the road as well. It is called Jesse and the Climate Monster. It's written by Tom Medeiros. It is a bilingual children's book that addresses the urgent topic of climate change through the adventures of Jesse and Jesse's classmates, transforming fear into empowerment. Tom, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and I really appreciate this.
I appreciate your time as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.